IVM.
Hi, I'm Zarina Poonawalla, your peak performance coach, life coach, emotional intelligence practitioner, and NLP practitioner. I'm also the founder of Abzo Expertise Unique, and my organization constantly aims at building leaders across continents. After having worked with so many dynamic business honchos, entrepreneurs, startups, CEOs, management gurus, parents, and student communities worldwide, I am convinced that every individual has unleashed potential, and all we really need to do is realize it. Watch the magic unfold, enhance quality of life, relationships, and professions. On my show, be ready for some riveting conversations with inspirational people, snippets, stories, and much more. So here I am on this exceptional journey to find empowerment and inspiration anywhere I can. Come join me on this breathtaking path of self-realization, potential maximization, positivity, and most of all, embrace your inner power. You are on your way to empowering yourselves. Welcome to the Empowering Series with Zarina Poonawalla. Hello, it's that time of the week where we say, thank God it's Monday. Time for your Monday mantra of the week. Simon Sinek is one of the greatest speakers of our times, and in one of his speeches, he explained this beautiful occurrence. When you are kind and practice a random act of kindness, like make a stranger cross the road, or give a seat to an old folk on the bus, or probably pick up someone's bag of groceries which spilled over, you feel an instant flush of oxytocin, making you feel good and connected to another human being, very instantly. The beauty is that you may transfer this feeling to the person you helped, and even possibly a bystander who's watching this gesture taking place from a distance. And just like that, in a moment, a kind gesture can make you feel warm, fuzzy, loved, and cared for. No wonder oxytocin is called the love hormone. But do you realize how busy we are getting in our lives to practice simple acts of kindness? In fact, the approach people have sometimes is, why should I help? Or, hey, you know what? What's in this for me? And maybe you should call someone else. We're so bogged, so spent and exhausted. And I completely understand, but kindness doesn't require that much effort. In fact, very recently I was having this conversation with a client of mine in Dubai, and he said to me, Zarina, I think I need to start being stern and use strength with some of my employees. I don't want them to take me for granted. And I asked him, why do you feel that way? So he said, many of my counterparts tell me it helps to be that way. That when people feel fearful and threatened, they perform better. I said, all right, that's okay, but does that mean they want to work, or do they just act out of this fear for you? He said, mostly it's fear, and I want to try adopting this style that some of my competitors and friends use, because I'm not sure if being kind and always finding a polite way to address an issue is a good thing to do. I said, okay, you have a point if you think so. But has the company been performing well? And his response was, yes, despite this pandemic, we have had a good quarter. I said, fantastic. All right. Now, I didn't know how to explain this any better to him. So I decided that I'm going to use a bit of an analogy. And I'm going to use the same to explain this to all of you. So I told him, you know what, let me try and explain this to you in the best way I possibly can. And I used this very ancient Aesop fable with him. On a bright day, the wind and the sun are arguing over who is stronger. Suddenly, they see a traveler coming down the road. They decide to settle this argument once and for all and come to an agreement that whoever can get the traveler to take off his coat is stronger. So the wind says, you know what, son, I will go first. And he goes and he blows wind really hard, very hard towards the traveler, as hard as he can. But the traveler gets uncomfortable, starts feeling cold and frightened. And because of this feeling, he starts to grip and wrap his body further in that coat. Once the wind is done and gives up, it's the sun's turn. And the sun decides to softly shine its warm rays on him. The traveler suddenly starts feeling hot and finally removes his coat. This naturally declared the sun the winner. I narrated this story to my client and he listened carefully. And I ask you all what I asked him. What do you think is the lesson we take from the story of the wind and the sun? I will tell you the lesson I take. A kind, warm and tender approach is always better than cold threats and force. So if you ever need something from someone, a co-worker, employee, spouse, even children, it is best to be kind and humble and avoid using empty threats and loud yelling voices. You might find the results rather surprising because kindness is truly your superpower, and when used appropriately with an amount of persuasion, it is something that will give you all the strength you require to face this world. Learn to be kind without a reason. Simple random acts of kindness don't just make you a good person, they just make you feel like a good person. And that feeling itself is enough to produce oxytocin, make you feel connected to people. And once you feel that connection, you just know that it's been a good moment, it's been a good day, it's been a good feeling. So learn to feel good and be kind, because that is your superpower. Be safe, be well, be empowered.
If you liked this podcast, don't forget to check out other interesting podcasts on the IVM network. You can listen to us on the IVM Podcast app or ivmpodcast.com. You can also follow us on our social media. We are at IVM Podcasts on Twitter and Instagram.
I hope you enjoyed that show. I'd like to thank our sponsors this week, Intel, for supporting us. Great week on the network. If you haven't been listening, why haven't you been listening? You should be listening. Rohan Joshi was on Uncle Please Sit, discussed the toxicity of the Indian pop culture. Really fun conversation to listen to. Rajiv Samant, the founder of Sula Wines, was on Cyrus Says. Again, I think that was a fun conversation. Also want to call out the season finale of Yuddha. Yuddha is our military history podcast. Definitely do check that out. It's a really great listen. And finally, I want to just remind you all that, it's a dark time, but if you need a smile, go check out the Smile India podcast by Shifa Mehtra. It's in both English and Hindi, and I think that you will really enjoy the kinds of things that she's talking about there. And with that, I hope to see you again next week.
Hello, everybody. We have a brand new daily podcast we're working on with Bloomberg Quint. All you need to know provides the top news on business, markets, and the economy so that you can stay ahead of the curve. Tune in every morning on BloombergQuint.com, the IVM Podcast app, or wherever you get your podcasts from.